Hi guys, it's Dr. Newell, and I wanted to go over CH 7-4 where we were learning how to use percent proportions. We worked on this just this past week, and you all are going to be working on your extended practice pages. And I want to just make sure that we have a relatively clear understanding of what we're looking for when we talk about percent proportions. So this was one of our practice problems. 5 is what percent of 10? Now, I am sure by now that you all understand how to set up the proportion, and I'm going to take a moment to go over that again. But what is most important is that you have a clear understanding of how numbers are related. Okay, so in this particular case, do I even need to set up a proportion if I am trying to discover what is um, what percentage 5 is of 10? If I am trying to figure this out, do I really, truly need to set up a proportion? I can think about how the numbers are related. I can think about how are 5 and 10 related? Well, as you all told me in our meeting, 5 is half of 10. And when I think about half and what that fraction represents, I can think about 50, right? 50 out of 100 as a fraction. And then if I convert that into a percentage, I will have 50%, which is exactly the percent 5 is of 10. So, yes, we are going to talk about using the percent proportion, but what I don't want is for you to lose your sense and knowledge when it comes to working with numbers that you know. So, for example, here we have 48 is what percent of 52? And we did most of these. I think both of you made it through most of these problems here. I'm going to go ahead on to the next page and let's take a look. We have what is 40% of 170? What is 50% of 380? And if I see, all right, so if I see what is 50% of 380, 50% of 380. Remember, in the sense of talking about percent proportion, we are going to have on one side of our proportion the percent over 100, and then on the left side we have is, which is the part, and we have sometimes represented as of, which is the whole or the base. Remember that? And so they give us certain information in our problem. So we see of 380. So we would plug the 380 there and we see 50%. So we would plug that in here. What are we looking for? We're looking for the part that goes right here. Now, I'm going to walk you through this whole work, but before we even do that, I want you to think of what is the question asking. It is asking me, what is 50% of 380? One of the tools and strategies I want you to think about using is just thinking about how numbers are related. You know that 100% of 380 is 380, and 0% of 380 is zero, right? So then what would 50% of 380 be? If you said it'll be half of 380, you're correct. So all I really have to do is divide 380 by 2. Okay. And if I do that, then I'll have my answer. And I'm doing long division here because, you know, I know y'all like that. So 50% of 380 is 190. The reason why I'm showing you this, even though you saw me write out this proportion, is because I want you to realize that sometimes your problems are solved in a simpler fashion. I don't want you to lose the art of recognizing how numbers are related. Okay, so let's do that. 50% of 380. I'm going to go ahead and clear this and I'll rewrite it. 50% of 380. Okay, so for the sake of learning how to use this percent proportion, I'm going to do this. There are a couple of ways you can go about this, right? Some students just really like to do the diagonal multiplication and then divide by the value that doesn't have a diagonal partner. That is a way to do it. What I really loved was watching how like Eli likes to see what is the relationship between these numbers here. And whatever the relationship here is, I'm going to do that. I'm going to create that same relationship between the numerators. Okay, that's another great way to do it. If we're thinking about how to set this up algebraically, then what we can do is we can set our base number and multiply that by our percent because we're doing the diagonal equals our part, which we don't know yet, times 100. So we'll put 100p. Okay. And so then we multiply 380 by 50 and divide it by 100. Or you can do something similar to what I did, aside from this whole proportion, and set up double number lines. And if you set up double number lines, because y'all know I like number lines, you can put your percent up top. 100% is the same as 380. 0% is the same as 0. What would 50% be? And for some, just seeing that set up as a number, double number line, helps them to say, oh, it's going to be half. And then they just cut it in half. Okay. So I just wanted to give you this quick review or reminder of what we're doing. I'm going to go back here again and look at a different problem that wasn't so simple. Let's take a look at 60 is 29% of what number? Okay. So this time I'm going to type 60 is 29% of what number? Now, this is more or less a problem that you may have to think of along the lines of using the percent proportion. However, I'm going to think differently about it. It says 60 is 29% of what number? What is 29% close to? It's close to 30%, right? So I like benchmark. Anytime I can find something that is relatable, I like to do that. But for the sake of time, and I don't want this video to be long, I'm going to go ahead and set up this proportion. So what I like to ask you guys straight up is, what did they give us? If you tell me, oh, well, doc, they gave us the percent. Okay, so I'll plug in 29, and they gave us the part because it says 60 is. Okay, and so now I'm going to look at this. If 60 is 29% of a number, where is that? How does that look on a number line? This is what I want y'all to do so you can know that you're checking your work. Okay, if I saw 29%, here is 0, here is 100%. This is 59%. Where would this 29% go? Would it go to the left of 50 or to the right? If you said to the left, you're correct. So this would be 10, this would be 40, this would be 20, this would be 30, right? So 29% is just about here. Okay. So it's close. It's like closer actually to 0 than it is to 50. That's something you need to think about. So I am looking at this denominator here being more than twice as much as 60, right? So if and I'm going to explain that. If 60 was 50% of this number, I'd be looking at about 120, but it's not. Does that make sense? If 60 was 50%, it would be about 120, but it isn't. So I know that my answer has to be greater than 120. This is the type of thought process I want to see you guys going through. Because if you do that, it helps you familiarize yourself with how numbers are related. Okay. And it makes this math quicker and easier for you. So let's just go through the process here. Remember, excuse me, for this type of math, it is okay for you to use a calculator. What you're going to also learn is that it's going to be okay for you to break down the percents and do your thing. So I am looking for a number that is greater. I am looking for a number that is at minimum greater than 120. Would you agree? Okay, so let's multiply 60 times 100. I know that when I multiply any number by 10, I just take my number that I have, 60, and if it was on a place value chart, I would move it one space to the right. I'm sorry, I would move my number one space to the left. So I would have 600. Okay. And, but I'm multiplying by 100. So I'm going to pick up this whole number here and move it two spaces to the left. So that gives me 6,000. Right. So now I have 6,000. I know this is some, let me try to clean up all this goobly goo writing that I'm doing here. Because I'm multiplying 60 by 100, I'm going to pick up 60 and move it two spaces to the left. So that gives me 6,000. And then I am going to divide 6,000 by 29. Okay. Now, what I want you to remember is that it is okay to use a calculator for this. And on this packet, remember I told you that we are going to round to the nearest tenth when necessary. If it gives you a terminating value after the hundredths place, use that. But if it doesn't, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. Okay. That is just invoking another skill. And so my answer that I got when I divided 6,000 by 29 was 206.89. Remember, I want you to write down the answer that you get, and then I want you to think like this. I am going to round to the nearest tenth. And the reason why is because I have several digits after this 9. Okay. So I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. And I know that I am utilizing that digit immediately to the right to help me decide whether or not this is going to become 206.9 or stay 206.8. And because my digit in the hundredths place is a 9, my answer will be 206.9. Okay. Now, is that number greater than 120? Yes, indeed, it is. Got it? All right. I hope that helps you guys with our just reminding you of the practice we put in. I want to make sure you are not just following some systematic approach to solving problems. I want you thinking about the percentage. If I tell you 4.5 is 90% of what number, I know that this is close to 100% of that number. Does that make sense? 90% is way, way over here. So if my answer is 4.5, that's my part, then my base or my whole number is probably going to be like 5 or 5 point something. Does that make sense? All right, that's going to be it for now. I'm going to go ahead and make another quick video for 7.5. Ciao for now.